Hello, this is Brandykins, and welcome to another episode of the Terrorific Talk podcast. This is episode 10. In this episode, I speak with VampireToy about vampires, her love of vampires, and the direction that she's taken her Twitch channel in, which is towards blood donation and suicide prevention. This was a live interview recorded on twitch.tv/Brandykins. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and stay terrific, everyone. Hello out there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Terrorific Talk, the 10th episode. And we have a first here on Terrorific Talk this evening because we have VampireToy, who loves vampires and horror, and this is the first guest that we've had that loves vampires on the show. So welcome, glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here. It's awesome. I know you're into zombies, so it's just like, to me, it's like zombies meets vampires. This is like the best thing ever.
Yeah, kind of like an aside, the show Deadliest Warrior, I don't know if you've heard of it, had an episode where it was zombies versus vampires, and the vampires won. Spoiler alert. Of course they would.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler alert, the vampires won, but I can kind of see like why they would win.
Yeah, just a little bit. They could be a little overpowered depending on which fiction you get into, which background of vampires you really delve into. Some of them are really, they're a little OP.
Yeah, it's just like, at least I can admit, like, zombies are kind of meh, they wouldn't be vampires, and then you can be like, well, yeah, vampires can be OP sometimes, depending on depending on, like you said, the lore. There's all sorts of different, like, vampire lore out there. And I will ask you, like, a little bit more questions about what vampire lore or version of vampires you like the best. But first, why don't you introduce yourself to the people out there? Kind of talk about a little bit about who you are, what you do in the content creation world.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am VampireToy. I am a Twitch streamer mostly. I might be branching off into YouTube really soon. Not sure soon. I do a lot of horror games, mainly I love horror games. I've been really into Dead by Daylight recently, but just anything I can get my hands on. I love it. I'm fairly new to the horror genre games. Like, I used to play a lot of older games, so a lot of the titles that have been coming out recently I haven't really played. So my channel focuses on a lot of those and just kind of learning from your mistakes. And I really like that idea of you don't really have experience playing this, but can you survive? Can you make it through? So that's really what my channel is about. We a really positive group of people. Like, we just like to have fun, and it's just a place to just unwind, have a little fun, have a drinky drink, drinky drink.
A drinky drink. I hope not blood.
Oh, well,
Okay, so you said that you didn't used to focus you don't focus a lot on the newer horror games. You're more into the retro horror games. So talk about a few of your favorites.
Yeah, so back in the day when I used to play a lot of video games, and then I took a huge break. So I call it I was in my coffin during that time period. But before, I used to be really into games like Fatal Frame. That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite games. Haunting Ground was also another really good one. The Resident Evil series. You can never go wrong with Resident Evil. And just all these kinds of games. I grew up playing it. Like, Resident Evil 0 was one of my earlier first horror games. I'd never played anything that scary. Like, I was just like, what is this? What even is this? Because it was just, I'd never even seen it before. So I started with that and just kind of played a bunch of them, and I started to realize, wow, I really like this. I like this this feeling where so anything could happen, but it's okay because it's just simulated and it's not real. But on my channel, I play all the new games as well. I'll go back to old games, but I'll also play new games that I haven't even seen before. I try to only see a couple seconds of gameplay of it just to kind of get a feel. And then I jump into it completely blind, have no idea what to even expect effects. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, to me, blind playthroughs are the best, especially when it comes to horror games, because if you already know everything that's going on, then, like, really, what's the point in playing it? What recent horror games have you played where you're just like, whoa, this is really scary. I was about ready to pee my pants.
Yeah, so what a lot of people probably don't know about me is I have a slight, and many people from my channel always joke with me. They're like, "Oh yes, slight." I have a phobia, I guess, of the sound of a chainsaw. Not chainsaws of themselves, but like if I hear it revving, I actually go into a slight panic. It's
Oh,
completely just like biological. I have no control over it. Like my body just all reason out the window. That's what I always say. And I recently played a game called The Evil Within,
oh man.
which, in case those of you who don't know, the very first level, the tutorial level, has a chainsaw. I did not enjoy that game.
Oh no.
So it's currently on the back burner to be played again sometime soon, but maybe not too soon. So that game.
So no chainsaws, no games with chainsaws. Like,
You know, I will still play them. I'll still play them. Like I played Dead by Daylight. It's one of my favorite games right now, and they have two killers who wield chainsaws, and it's always a gamble going into a match with people.
yeah.
I pretty much have to warn anybody I'm playing with, like, by the way, you know, I'm gonna help you as much as I can. However, if there's a chainsaw, I hope you don't hold it against me, but you might be left behind.
Yep, if I see a killer with a chainsaw, I'm running in the opposite direction.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I'd say that watching movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is off the table.
I have not seen it. I can't even thinking about like us talking about this is like already like I'm getting anxious. So I don't even watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I haven't watched any of them. I've watched a lot of horror movies, but that is one of the series that I actually can't do, and it's really interesting. I never even knew that this was a phobia of mine until I actually got into horror gaming, ironically. So
Huh.
yeah, it was a bit of a interesting thing. So yeah, no, I have not watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I like to sleep. Thank you.
Wow, that's really interesting. The horror genre can sometimes even teach us things about ourselves, like what are our main fears, what are our triggers in a sense. So let me kind of shift away from that topic because I don't want to make you anxious like any more than I have to. No, that's a terrible statement. No, I don't.
No,
want to
it's
make you
totally
anxious.
fine. It's
Like,
completely fine. Like I said, I'm kind of used to it. It's just like, you know, getting ready for a DVD round where there is a chainsaw. I'm like, okay.
yeah, like I said, I don't want to make this an anxious experience. I want it to be a fun experience. So
Thank you. I appreciate you.
So let's kind of shift to okay. So thinking back, okay, we all have that one experience that triggers our love for any genre. So what was your first experience with horror that made you realize, wow, I love this so much? Like,
So it's very interesting you should ask this. My very first like experience where I got the like poo scared out of me basically. I was really young. I don't even remember how old I was, but my mom had rented The Sixth Sense, and she was watching it. And she had told my sister and I, like, this is a very scary movie. You guys can't be watching this, so go play or something. And you know, when your parent says that,
you're like,
you really, you're just like, well, how bad can it be, you know? And I kept trying to sneak in and kind of like peek in through the doorway, trying to get in there. My mom kept having to shoo me away. So eventually she was like, you know what? Okay, come watch this movie. Come watch this scary movie. It was my first, I think, official scary movie. And of all the movies to watch, like that one, right? And I couldn't sleep for days. So she ended up getting kind of a bit of payback for that one. But that movie really was just like, this genre, what is this? Like I said with the Resident Evil Zero, that was like Resident Evil Zero was my first game, but The Sixth Sense was really something that stuck with me as a kid, and it made me really want to find out more and really get into that horror genre. I even grew up with things like Are You Afraid of the Dark? I don't know if you're familiar with that from like Nickelodeon.
Yes, I am.
Like such a classic. I loved it. Goosebumps. Just I started just getting into it. Just one thing after another. Just whatever I could be, whatever I was allowed to get into. That's what I try to get my hands on, basically. So that movie, that movie changed it for me.
So The Sixth Sense is what started it all.
It all started there. Yep.
I remember my starting point was Hellraiser.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no,
that's a good one to start with, to be honest.
Yeah, and then my mom would let me watch Tales from the Crypt and an old HBO show called The Hitchhiker. And it has like a creepy theme to where every time I would hear it, I would like run into the other room and like plug my ears until it was over. But yeah, if you ever like have the chance, look up The Hitchhiker theme. It's very... I get the willies just even thinking about it. But it's funny, yeah, we both had our moms kind of get us into the horror genre, so that's kind of a commonality there.
Wait, how did your mom get you into Hellraiser? Now I gotta hear this.
Okay, well, the little bit of a story behind that was, my mom and my stepdad were watching it, and they were just like, Brady, like, there's a similar story to you, Brandy, you can't watch it, you're gonna have to, like, go upstairs, and then, of course, you're like, how bad could it be? Very similar, like, kind of thing. So I creep down the stairs, and it so happens to be the part where the guy's getting pulled apart by the chain. So, of course, 6-year-old me gets freaked out. And I'm like...
Of course. Oh, my gosh. And it's such a graphic movie. Like, I mean, for what we have now, it's like that was at its time, it was so well done, considering they had so little budgeting. But like when you're just a kid, when you're just a little child, it'll stick with you. That's crazy. Oh man.
Yeah. I ended up watching it like much later when I was a lot older. It's just like, well, what was it about that scared me so much? And I rewatched it. I was like, it was okay. I mean, like,
yeah, it's just way more scary as a kid.
Yeah, everything seems to be like more scary as a kid.
It's so true. Yeah.
So you talk about your first experience, like that the poo scared out of you is The Sixth Sense, and you talk about how you got into Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps and all those other aspects. So, vampires. Talk about your first experience, like finding out about vampires.
So it's kind of weird because it kind of came organically. I can't even really pinpoint to you like the first time I was just like, wow, vampires, like this is really cool. Like, because I know a lot of people got really into it when Interview with a Vampire came out, right? And then you have Twilight, and I mean everyone's going like comes in to this vampire thing when those really good big vampire movies come out. But for me, I can't even pinpoint an exact time when I just was like, yeah, vampires, awesome. Like it kind of came gradually, and then one day, like I was just like, you know what? I really like vampires. I like the lore. I keep being drawn to them, and I wasn't even sure why. So at that point, I must have been like in like middle school or high school, somewhere around that very confusing time.
Yeah.
I just lined up all the vampire movies I could think of and just started watching them. Just watching them. Like I watched Nosferatu, I watched Dracula, I watched Interview with the Vampire. It wasn't, and then like anything I could get my hands on, and I just thought, wow, this is really cool that so many people have different interpretations of this creature that, historically speaking, has nothing remotely to do with what we imagine today in the horror industry. Like when you think vampire, you think suave, sexy, English sometimes, Romanian, very like older, but just nice and but when you look at the mythology of where vampires come from, like I got into that a lot, and it was very interesting to me to see that a lot of different cultures, I'm not sure all of them, but a lot of different ones from all different forms and versions of vampires. It was really interesting to see that each culture would have this like blood-sucking creature, and I really got into that, as well as what Hollywood portrays with vampires. So I wish I could pinpoint when exactly it all started, but it just kind of snowballed, and then we're here.
Yeah, I hear you. It's kind of like where I am with zombies. Like I can't pinpoint like really a time where I was like, hey, zombies are cool. It's just
Right.
like it was just me getting into the lore and the what was it behind zombies and watching the different like films, like of course George Romero, who's the godfather of zombies, like starting with the Night of the Living Dead and then like going on up from
Classic.
there. Yes, it is a classic. God, I love George Romero so much.
So
Just
good.
and it's just like, and he's responsible for the way that zombies are portrayed in film and stories today. So he had such a huge impact on popular culture, and I hope that he knows that.
Right? Yeah, like I mean, and that's so cool that you just like I was with vampires, it's just like one thing leads to another, and it's just the next thing you know, you're like, I know a lot about this topic. And it's just a lot of fun, and yeah, I Night of the Living Dead is just absolutely
Yeah,
cool.
it's one of those, and it's just one of those movies where it's really kind of creepy to watch at night, like with all the lights off, even though it was made in 1968. And it's not just zombies. There was so much more going on behind there. It's just like Romero was so smart in like commenting and critiquing society with his films.
And I think that's really what I love about horror is
Yeah.
that it does that. It's like a microcosm of what's really going on in our world, and it's almost like a dark mirror almost. You know what I mean? Like it's a good look into real life, and it's interesting to see how it portrays life, but it also kind of changes our culture at the same time because it points out these things too.
Oh, I didn't know if you were going to continue.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just like, what happened?
Okay, so I'm going to pause right there for a second because it looks like Discord is acting up just a little bit. Boo you! Like, yeah,
Dang you, Discord.
Okay, so let me change to my time zone, which is Central, and we'll see if that helps out like anything. So, all right. So we'll see if that works.
Perfect.
If not, we're just gonna like go with the flow, and we're just gonna continue, and we'll see what happens.
All right,
But,
perfect.
okay, so now going back to vampires, you talked about how there's so many different interpretations of vampires, so much vampire lore. So, putting all that together, what is your favorite interpretation of the vampire?
Oh God. Oh, what a loaded question.
Hey, I asked loaded questions on
Ooh.
here.
I love it. Thank you. To be honest, it's really hard to pick. Because what kind of happens with the vampires in Hollywood is that as time goes on, people kind of cherry pick what they like about the vampire uh, persona. You know what I mean? So, what I like about one version of the vampire, I might like only one or two things about that particular portrayal, and then I like, a completely different portrayal. It's hard to say, but I really had to pick. Either I'm gonna go classic Dracula, like Dracula, right? Bela Lugosi totally pulls off an amazing Dracula. Um, or for more like modern vampire, I really like the True Blood vampires. Of all
Oh,
the vampires, I really liked the depiction of True Blood's vampires just because it answered a lot of questions um, that vampire lore kind of glosses over. It doesn't really talk about certain, namely about like, well, what about vampires? Don't they have like a type of blood? And it really opened the door to different questions about what is the vampire and what is it capable of in this particular realm. And I thought it was really interesting to see they had a lot of the old-fashioned traits of vampires mixed in with more modern age just reality, and how is it that those two worlds can come together to make just this badass of a creature. And it was cool that they had other beings in there as well, so it wasn't all just vampires, that there were other things in that as well to kind of balance it out.
Yeah,
I really liked True Blood, so that one I really liked. Yeah, and then of course Bela Lugosi, classic Dracula, like pulls it off so well. How could I not pick, of course, the King Dracula?
Yeah, of course you gotta go with this, one of the classic interpretations of the vampire. Dracula is the one that pretty much started it all, even before like the old folklore of the vampirific creatures.
Yes.
Okay, now on the flip side, what's an interpretation of the vampire where you're like, no, they got it all wrong, this sucks?
I'm almost, like, I almost feel like people are on the edge of their seat saying, Twilight, tell me it's Twilight.
That's probably what they're like, Twilight, but...
It's probably Twilight. To be honest, Twilight would be on this list, just if only for the fact that they sparkle. That, to me, was an interesting twist. I really like that she kind of went and did a completely different twist on vampires. I like that. And that's very difficult to do when you're playing with a trope that has had the same stuff over and over again. But I don't know if... I mean, Twilight was bad. I mean, it was bad, but I don't know if they take the cake for that necessarily. I think as far as vampires go, I wish they had gotten more into the lore of it from Dusk Till Dawn. I know it's not really like a vampire movie, but it is, and I wish they had talked about those vampires more. Like, they just kind of throw it at you like, oh, by the way, this movie completely takes a left turn and there are vampires now, by the way. Okay.
Yeah, gee, thanks.
Yeah, so I feel like that one might have also been kind of like, man, I don't know. It's tough to say. That's a very tough question. I like them all. I remember watching one vampire movie. It was like a sci-fi where it was like vampires in space. Get ready. It was so bad. Like, they had puppets and like things bursting out of people's chests, and it was like a hand puppet, like not even speaking English. It was like an alien language, and it was like, oh, it was bad. That one was bad.
It wasn't Dracula 3000, was it?
Was it? I don't remember. Someone was like, oh, you're into vampires, check out this movie. They sent it to me, and I started watching it, and I was like, oh god, what is this?
Like, I have questioned everything I've done in my life up to this point that led me to watch this film.
It was bad. I mean, it was like a sci-fi special movie. Maybe it was Dracula 3000. No, I don't think it was that. It was bad. I think it was just a really bad, like, sci-fi movie thing. Like, it was, wow. That one was pretty bad.
Yeah. It was like, I'm trying to think I would have to say my favorite interpretation of vampires is, of course, Bela Lugosi. You can't go wrong with classic Dracula, and I was the nerd that would read Dracula for fun, like, not for any, like, kind of assignment. Yeah. So, I don't know, like, if you were, like, the same way, where you just, like, were you the type of student, I suppose, that would just, like, get into these things, like, organically? You didn't even really care if it was, like, for homework or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I really did enjoy picking up vampire books. That's actually where I read Twilight. I actually read Twilight before the movies came out, and I read the second book even. I didn't make it to the third book. I was done by the second book. I'm gonna be completely honest. I got to the second book, I was like, no. But I, like, during that time period, literally it was yeah, I'd go to the library, anything with vampires in it, I'd pick it up. There's so many bad like romance vampires, rom vamps, you know. There's some really bad ones out there, and it's like a guilty pleasure to just open it up and read it. Um, but yeah, like during high school, yeah, same deal. I would just go to the library. Teachers wouldn't have to tell me to read or anything. I was always just like open a book, read. A lot of vampire stuff. I used to read oh gosh, Cirque du Freak. I don't know if you ever got into that.
I've heard of
really
it.
Interesting.
Heard of it, but never read it.
Yeah, it was like a weird. It was also vampires. It was like a weird interpretation of vampires. I got really into that halfway through the series. It kind of goes on its own direction, so I kind of stopped with that one. But that was a good one I would read. But yeah, like just whatever I could get my hands on, basically whatever our school had.
Yeah, I tried to remember like what other vampire books that I've read. Of course, Dracula.
Dracula, yeah.
I've really got into Anne Rice. I didn't care too much for the book Interviewed the Vampire. I thought the movie did things a little bit better. But The Vampire Lestat was an excellent book. I don't know if you've read that.
I did not. Anne Rice is actually, ironically, one of the few authors I have not read, mainly because her books are so big that I would start reading them and then I would get sidetracked. Just because she's so like description heavy. I love it, don't get me wrong. I just haven't been able to sit down and read a lot of her stuff. But I really like Interview with the Vampire. The pace of the book is a lot slower. And a lot of people are like, well, Interview with the Vampire was slow. I was like, no, you don't understand.
No.
But Anne Rice is great. I really liked, Cirque du Freak was cool until like halfway through the book series, and then kind of, like I said, goes off on its own weird direction. I'm trying to think of other series, like what other. I know True Blood is based on a book series. I have not read that one though. Yeah, I know. I'm like drawing a blank. Like, there's not many good ones. I mean, Twilight kind of destroyed the industry. It's like no more vampires. We're cutting you off.
Yeah, like thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I read the first couple books of the True Blood series, and it's just nice. The show did it a little bit better, I will admit, because they made the main character, Sookie, a little bit too Mary Sue-ish in the books.
Yes.
Yes, and where in the show, it's just like she's a little bit more developed, and there was a reason pretty much just why people felt magnetically drawn to her is because of, because she was part Fae, I think, is what it was.
Right, yeah, that's what they were saying in the show. How interesting.
Yeah.
That's
So it's just like, the show did it a little bit better. For me personally, it kind of went off the rails in the very last season, but up till then, like, I didn't mind it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really interesting take on vampires. Like I said, it really twisted in that like realism of the modern day. You know what we haven't talked about that we absolutely like. I'm almost like ashamed that I haven't even mentioned this once. Is Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
You should get your street cred taken away.
I know. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Of course, that is a freaking cult classic. How could I forget Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Have you watched the show or the movie?
I have not watched the movie, but I have seen the show, all 7 seasons of it.
Perfect. I'm so glad. Yes. That is dedication, by the way. 7 seasons, quite a lot, and lots of up and downs.
Oh, yeah. So what is it about Buffy the Vampire Slayer that you like so much?
Joss Whedon's writing. No, his portrayal of vampires are really cool. Some really fun facts about the vampires in Buffy. They're actually based on the Lost Boys vampires.
Lost Boys!
Yeah. Lost Boys, another cult classic, of course. Down here in Santa Cruz, by the way, they were filming on the boardwalk when my mom went to go visit Santa Cruz at one point. They were filming that scene with the train tracks when my mom went there, so that was cool. But yeah,
like jealous.
yeah, right. I was just like, what, man? I wish I'd been there. That's so cool. But yeah, like so he based his vampires on the Lost Boys because he really liked the Lost Boys and he liked the look of the vampires, the change, you know, like being able to look one way and then you bring out your like demonic side, and he incorporated that into Buffy, and I thought that's actually really cool. That's a really cool little like thing. I just Buffy the Vampire Slayer is just so good. Such good, lovable characters. Um, you like really, you really relate to them. You know what I mean? Like they're very human and natural, and their character development is just so spot on. It's delicious to watch.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of just each vampire slayer having almost like a mentor of sorts that would help them and guide them. I think like really the only like plot hole that I see is like, okay, so only one can be activated at any one time? Really? So you're telling me that vampires only exist in this town and that's it? That was kind of like the kind of to me, but I enjoyed the show enough to where I could set that aside. But that's still,
right. Yeah, that was something that was also very interesting. Where it's just like, well, you only have one Slayer, and she's up against the forces of darkness, not just vampires, but all the forces of darkness. What's happening on the other side of the world? You know, like, Sunnyvale wasn't the only one with a Hellmouth. You know, like what happened to the other parts of the world? Like, what are they dealing with? You know, when the Slayer's not there, who's stopping them? So it's very interesting. Yeah, like that's a very interesting point. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but there can be more than one Slayer they found in the show.
Yeah, so
it was interesting. Oh man, I'm just like
yeah, it's just like, like better hold my tongue.
Yep. I don't want to ruin it for anyone. Like, it's been out for years, but still, it's such a good show. Like, you can watch it, pick it up now, and it's still like it's like a time capsule. You know, like the '90s. It's just beautiful. Just hold it.
I'm trying to think of some other shows that have vampires or some movies. Two that are coming off the top of my head is the movie 30 Days a Night, which is based on the graphic novel. Have you seen that one?
I have seen that, yes. But only the first part of it.
Oh, you need to watch all of it.
I know. That's one that I was just like, I don't know about this one. And I paused it and I never went back to it. But that, like, a lot of people told me that one is really, really good.
It is. If you can, you should look for the extended cut.
Ooh, extended cuts are the best for horror.
So definitely look for the extended cut. But the reason I guess why I like it so much is I like the portrayal of vampires where they're not sexy and alluring. I like it when they're just these demonic, blood-sucking creatures where their really only concern is just like feeding, and that's it. And so that's what I loved about the 30 Days of Night vampires. Also the fact that the setting is creepy as hell. So actually 30 Days of Night, there's nowhere to get help. You're pretty much screwed.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, especially if you got those creepy guys coming after you.
Oh man, so that's definitely what you need to go back to, but look for the extended cut. I like the extended cut a lot better than I did like the original cut.
All right, extended cut. We're gonna definitely have to. I'm gonna have to check this out now. I'm like, movie night maybe.
Absolutely, yeah. Another movie that's good to watch with the lights off.
Perfect.
Now, let's see here. Supernatural is also another show that has vampires, albeit a little bit briefly. So I assume you know what I'm talking about whenever I said the show Supernatural. So
yes, I do.
Yeah, saving people, hunting things, the family business. So what were your thoughts on vampires and how they were portrayed in the show Supernatural?
To be honest, I only watched a couple episodes of Supernatural. That's actually very interesting because my dad is super into the Supernatural series, and he tells me about the vampires, and he asked me questions like, "Are vampires supposed to do this?" And I'm like, "I don't. Maybe. I mean, what's the context? I mean, I don't know." But yeah, that's another show I've actually. It's on my list to watch, just because I know it's. Isn't it still going?
It is still going.
Okay.
Yes, it
That's
is.
I have a hard time jumping into something that's still going because I will catch up.
Right. Nowadays, Supernatural has kind of fallen off my radar because after season 8 is where it just kind of like I lost interest. But
Yeah,
this,
that's the hard part with series.
yeah, and season 7 I think is the season that has where vampires first like come into play. But seasons 1 through 5 are excellent because it focuses on a singular story. So if
Oh.
anything, if you don't want to go past season 5 would be a good ending because it's got a nice story arc to it and a good ending with season 5.
So, is my understanding is when they added vampires is when they started going downhill? What?
No, actually, it's no, actually, no. That season was okay. I will say that.
Oh, okay.
That season was
I
okay.
was just clarifying. I was like, wait a second.
It's all their fault. It's all their fault. No. It was season 8 where it started to kind of like
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard once you've hit that many seasons. It's very difficult. Like you're like at that hill. You know what I mean? Like that hill.
Yeah, it's just like shows here need to know that when they've come to a decent conclusion, they just need to not be afraid to be like, that's it. And it's at a good point, but over here it's just like, good ratings, more money. Let's just keep making seasons, even though it makes no sense.
Yeah, and that's how it is a lot of the time in the horror genre. Like they always they either reboot stuff because it's everybody wants it and they've been asking for it, or they're rebooting stuff because it's making money. And they're just basically beating that dead horse whenever they reboot stuff, you know, and it's so unfortunate, but I don't know. It's like you said, if only they could just be okay with stopping and not worry about it too much about, oh man, what if we don't have something new to replace it? You know what I mean? Like you can always come up with something. There's always some space for new stuff.
Exactly. It's just like let's not like remake and rehash the same old like beat that dead horse, and let's not make like 10 of like franchising. Horror has a big problem with franchising.
Yes.
Like they feel like they must make more. Like no.
I think it's also just like especially for the big name titles, I think it's just not wanting to let that go. Um a lot of people they want to get back to that feeling of when they first saw Michael Myers, when they first saw Freddy Krueger, and you know they want to relive that and maybe experience more of that particular horror killer or like particular scenario. And I think that's really what it comes down to too, is just like people just want that, and maybe that's what it is. I don't know, you could be right, it could just be all about the money and nothing else. But what brings us back, I wonder, is it that like almost wanting that first experience again, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, that's a different take on it. Just like almost like nostalgia. Then I take it as what you're getting.
Yeah,
at there.
I guess so. Or um maybe not just so much nostalgia, but wanting to experience it more. Or um like for example, in Hellraiser, when you first watch the first Hellraiser, you're sitting there, you're wondering like, okay, who are these Cenobites? Where did these boxes come from? Why is this happening? And like that sort of thing, like you want to revisit it, like you want to come back to Pinhead, you want to come back to that world, not just because you were just like, whoa, what is this? But just because you also wanted to learn more about it. And I think that's something that's very interesting in the horror genre, is that you have to build a world, and there's so much to uncover in that world. Like people love that, you know.
Man, speaking of like horror worlds, just like atmosphere is one of my favorite parts of any kind of like horror movie or a horror game. It's just like you have to set that atmosphere and you have to set that tone. Otherwise, just like, what's the point of calling it a horror movie?
Exactly.
And okay, I'm trying to think here of another. Oh, I have seen the new Halloween, so the third, I guess, Halloween 2, I guess, in this whole
whatever
thing.
they're wanting to call it.
Yeah, but I love the fact it's kind of steering away from vampires here a little bit.
No,
but
no, absolutely. I love horror. Yeah. Absolutely, anything. Let's talk spoopy.
All right. So I like the fact that Halloween, the recent one that came out, is just a direct sequel to John Carpenter's 1978 Halloween. Because John Carpenter's just like, nope, we're just scrapping all those crappy sequels. That's it. This is just a direct sequel. And I like that they took that approach just so much. Have you seen that movie?
I completely agree with you. 100%. Yes, I did. I went to see it when it came out.
I did too.
I was like, I'm going to go. This is amazing. We're going to have to go see it. I don't care if it's poop. I'm going to go see it. But yeah, I completely agree. I actually saw the original the night before. I just sat down, watched it. And it was good. It was a good thing that I did because when I went to watch the new one, I noticed that there was so many references to that first one, like just little nods that maybe like if you hadn't watched it in a while, like you might not have picked up on. And I thought that was really, really cool of them to do that. But yeah, no, I thought it was really well done. Some people were kind of like iffy about it. I thought it was still really good. I do have like some of my own thoughts on it, but I still thought it was well delivered, well done, especially like, you know, horror movie big successes or so I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and I heard just pretty much, I hope they don't like make a sequel. I hope this is just like the end of it. And I don't want Hollywood to be like, this made a lot of money, let's make another sequel. It's just like, no, I don't want to spoil the ending, but it's just pretty much just like, no, just the way you ended it, like,
that's
no.
it. Like, don't do it.
Like, don't you dare. I swear, if I see a sequel
I completely agree. I completely 100% agree. It's just, leave it. Just, it's beautiful the way it is. Don't touch it.
Yeah, because then you're pretty much going to have to fully rethink the lore of Michael Myers and it's just true. Like what he is. It's just like, is he a supernatural being? Is he just a man? If he's the latter, then leave it be. If it's the former, okay, it's weird. They never fully established that before. So I think that's probably one of people's main issues. Like, who is Michael Myers?
That's really interesting. And I know they were trying to answer it in those sequels that we will, I guess, try and forget about going forward. But they did try to, I think, establish like a reason why. But I think Michael Myers just works better as a horror slasher when you don't know why. When there isn't a reason for why he does what he does, it makes him just way more volatile, unpredictable, dangerous. And I think that's really what's most important for his particular persona, to strike fear into people. Like, this guy just walks up, grabs whatever he can get his hands on, a knife, a hammer, an axe, whatever, and he's gonna find a way into your house. He's probably already blocked your exits, and you're not gonna make it. Like, that's pretty scary. Like, especially if you had no idea this was coming. It just comes out of left field, you know? I think that is a really scary factor for Michael Myers.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's what makes him, like, I agree with you. It's what makes him so terrifying, because in the first film, Dr. Loomis is just like, well, I spent this many years trying to treat him, and then I've spent, like, all this time trying to keep him locked up because, well, I looked into that boy's eyes, what I saw is pure and simply evil. And that's really all I need to know. I don't need to have a giant convoluted backstory as to how Michael Myers came to be and why he suddenly decided to start killing people. I don't need all that. So,
yeah.
That's kind of just why my thoughts on Rob Zombie's Halloween is just very kind of back and forth. Like, on the one hand, you could definitely tell that Rob Zombie loves Halloween. That he took great care to, like, also throw those little nods in there to the original. But then also, it's like he spent a little bit too much time trying to like delve into the backstory of Michael Myers, which I'm kind of like 50-50 on. On the one hand, I appreciate it and don't mind it, but on the other hand, I'm just like, I don't know. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Funny enough, I actually saw the Rob Zombie version of Halloween before I saw the original. And from that kind of standpoint, I will say, like, for the longest time, I was like, wow, Michael Myers is not. I don't understand why everyone likes this guy. And that's not to say that Rob Zombie's like portrayal was bad or anything like that. It just we've been talking about, that justification of his background humanized him so much that it just became less scary for me, especially with his relationship with his sister, quote unquote. Um, that it just made him seem so like he had emotions, and it was an interesting take. But looking at it, when you look at the first Halloween movie from John Carpenter, you're just thinking like, all right, the killers, even though they're the same, John Carpenter's is way more terrifying because of that violent ability, So you've got Rob Zombie's version, and then you've got John Carpenter's version, and each of them were really interesting. I'm gonna have to go with John Carpenter's portrayal way more. It's just Rob Zombie, like you said, like you could tell there was a lot of love and care into that movie. It just wasn't a good horror movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could completely get you there. The second one was just so weird. Rob Zombie's one was just like, what the hell is up with like that white horse? It's just like,
yeah, it's just a lot of randomness in that movie, and it was very predictable too. Like there were scenes where I'm like, okay, you guys are dead. It's only a matter of time.
Like,
but
you're gonna die. You're gonna die.
Yeah, and I felt with the original Halloween, like there were moments where you were thinking, oh god, she's gonna die. She's gonna die, and then like it wouldn't happen, and then you'd be like, okay, okay, so it's not happening yet, but you're just waiting. You're like literally on the edge of your seat because you know it's gonna happen. You just don't know when. And I really like that contrast between the two of them. That's a very interesting difference between Michael Myers, Rob Zombie's version, and then John Carpenter's version as well. They were just very different. Play with your food, so to speak.
Yeah, I never heard it put that way before. Play with your food version.
I think that's what I liked about the original Halloween, is that he was a bloodthirsty killer, but he wouldn't necessarily just go on a rampage per se. Like he would stalk people, he took his time. You could tell he actually enjoyed the process, and that's what made him even more terrifying, because you were with him the whole time. You're like, I'm with a psychopath. Like, what am I watching?
Right, one part that really particularly got to me was when he killed. Newsflash: people die in this movie. Okay, it's not a spoiler alert. So, but
spoils.
Whenever he killed that one girl's boyfriend and just like had him pinned up to the wall like with that knife, and he's just almost like an artist admiring his work as he's just like kind of tilting his head. It's just like
so creepy. Yeah, so creepy.
Just even thinking about it just gives me chills.
And, it's so good.
And one of my moderators in chat is saying that, speaking of John Carpenter, his music is amazing. I would agree.
100%.
John Carpenter's music is a mood in itself.
It's true. He has amazing, like, to make only a couple keys sound the most terrifying. Michael Myers Halloween theme song playing. You're looking around, you're like looking over your shoulder like, am I next?
Yes. You like play a few bars, that's Michael Myers. That's it. That's him.
A little off topic, but have you seen the guy on YouTube who plays the piano, the Michael Myers Halloween theme on the piano, going through drive-thrus, but he's got the mask and everything, and he'll play the song?
I haven't seen the drive-thru one, but I have seen like the elevator one.
The elevator one. It's the same guy. It's so good. I highly recommend it for anyone who hasn't yet gotten a chance to check that out. It's so funny.
Yeah, because
people's reactions are the best.
Yeah, because I think I'd be the same way if I just suddenly I opened the elevator and I saw a guy going.
Oh yeah, I'd be out of there. I'd be like, out. Go, bye.
Bye. Bye. I'm taking the next.
Yeah, I want to live. Thank you.
It was funny, the people's reactions to that. It's just like, oh
yes.
man. He's still like, I'd have to say out of all the slashers, he creeps me out the most.
I agree. As far as all the slashers, I completely agree. 100% Michael Myers definitely just has that scare factor, and I don't know. I think it's that intimidation.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Michael Myers and Halloween, it wouldn't have started the slasher like genre of horror to begin with. I mean,
yes, that's a good point.
And because you had Friday the 13th, which came out not long after Halloween.
Of course.
And then you have Nightmare on Elm Street, which was a creative slasher. I like that strictly because of its creativity. A dude that kills you in your dreams. I mean,
it's pretty spooky. I mean, like, what are you gonna do? Stay awake? Good luck.
Yeah, like in the third one, Dream Warriors, I think they tried to kind of help people out by saying like, oh look, there's this new experimental drug that blocks your ability to dream. And it's just like, well, we have to dream. It's like we dream even when we don't remember it, so we're screwed like 24/7. Yeah. So you're not gonna be able to stay awake 24/7 either.
Oh yeah, no. And it's interesting because a lot of people, they've told me like Freddy Krueger is actually the one that they're most terrified of because of that reason, where it's just like, you gotta sleep someday, and the first movie does it so brilliantly. Like they drink coffee, they do the caffeine pills, they're like trying to stay awake, play the rock music,
and their brains are like, nope, you're going to sleep.
There's no way you're gonna sleep, and Freddy's gonna get you.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. A lot of people, as far as slashers go, Freddy Krueger is the one that a lot of people would not want to deal with.
And I get, for fair reasons, I can definitely see why.
Right, yeah, let's, yeah.
And then with Jason, he teleports apparently, and you can't ever kill him, so you're screwed there as far as that goes.
Yeah, that's also a very interesting thing, the teleporting. Like, that is an actual, I guess, ability that the fandoms have just accepted. They're just like, yeah, Jason can teleport, he's a badass. I'm like, okay, cool. And I want to visit that lake. Like, apparently you get superpowers.
Yeah, apparently so. What's in the water at Crystal Lake? And then also just the fact that the fandom has said that Jason is a demon of some sort. Right. And that's kind of an interesting fan theory there. It's like, well, yeah, that makes sense. It might be why he's hard to kill.
Yeah, and then of course Freddy Krueger is like a sleep demon. So you've got two slashers that are actually demons. How interesting.
I never made that connection.
Oh.
Whoa! I'm learning new things here tonight.
Yeah, I was under the impression he made like a deal with a sleep demon, and that's why he lives in the sleep realm. But I could be wrong. I'm not an expert on slashers.
Just like maybe it's like a theory or something too.
It might be. I'm like I said, this is what I understood it, because I've only watched like a couple of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, and that was a theory that I picked up on. Like I watched a lot of the YouTube videos of like the different like horror of like enemies, villains, killers. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I remember seeing that of his, and I was like, whoa, that explains a lot. Like, okay, that's interesting. That's why he feeds off the fear, like, that he's trying to create in the dreams, and that's why he has to kill you in the dreams. Like, okay, that kind of makes a little bit of sense, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I mean,
somebody tell me.
Yeah, who knows? Fans are very good at coming up with theories as to behind just, like, the origins of their favorite killers, and just like the whole weird fan theory too of Home Alone, where Kevin McAllister grows up to be the Jigsaw killer, because because of all the traps that he made in his house for the robbers. That I guess he graduated to bigger and gorier things.
Yep. Yeah, and Saw was a very interesting series. It's not really technically slasher. Like what I don't know what would be like the correct terminology. I call it torture porn, but that's just what I call it.
Yeah, torture is definitely like a subgenre of horror, and that's what a lot of Saw was comprised of. And it's just, then you had the added element of, well, he's not really like maybe directly killing him. He indirectly is by setting up the traps and the puzzles and things like that. It's just like, how much imagination would you have to like set up stuff like that? It's just,
for real. Like you have to be really dedicated with this mission that he had, right? So, that one, Yeah,
it's just like, so like the moral of the story is just like you live your life to its fullest, or Jigsaw will kidnap you, like put you in a room, force you to get out in like 3 hours. It's just, I would hate to be one of his victims, because I freak out in games that have time limit like levels. So I'm like, oh crap, I gotta get out of here, I gotta get out of here. So
the stress of it. Oh no. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Oh yes. Good point here. Someone in chat says Jigsaw could be researching the limits of the human psyche, perhaps.
Oh.
Using the victims as his playthings. Ooh.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see like what motivates a killer. And I think that's also going back to the whole Halloween sequels, right? Like that's what people want to know. Like why is Michael Myers the way he is? Why is Jigsaw the way he is? Why do they do what they do? And I think like somewhere deep inside these killers, like maybe they think what they're doing is the right thing. Like, ooh, what if they think they're the right ones?
Ooh, and that's some of the creepiest villains, to where they have their motivations to where they believe what they're doing is right, and it's just like, no, obviously, no, you're wrong. You are so totally like far off base.
Right? Yes. It's like incorruptibly evil. You know, you can't sway them from their mission. They are dedicated to whatever it is they're going for. And that's so creepy.
Yeah, and Saw did that really well. To where it's like, yes, Jigsaw had a reason for doing what he did, but it wasn't like they didn't beat you over the head with it and like try and go into too much detail. And some of the best killers, like they have their reasons for believing like what they're doing is right. You don't need to know their backstory like a good portion of the time, but if it's given, then if it's done well, I have no problem with it either way.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's just such a difficult balance to find in any horror genre. Like when you have the killer or the bad guy, quote unquote, how do you present them? Because how you present them is going to ultimately decide what your horror movie, game, book is going to do. You know what I mean? If you humanize it like Rob Zombie's Michael Myers, it might take away from that horror element. But if you just leave it, then we get sequels.
Yeah, it's just like, it just depends on just like what route that you take. And I'm trying to think of a killer that was kind of humanized but done well as of recently. I don't know if you can think of one off the top of your head, but I'm having a hard time. I kind of felt sorry for Jigsaw, like, you know, in a sense.
Right, yeah.
Because of the fact that he was dying of cancer and just pretty much projecting his anger, just like, well, look at me, like, I would like to live, and I'm dying. I have this terminal illness, I'm dying, and then, like, here are all these people pretty much just, like he says, they're not counting their blessings. He says he's sick of people that don't count their blessings.
Right, like, yeah. I think it's very interesting because when I think of killers or the villains, a lot of times they were at some point the victim. Like you have Jason, who was bullied, drowned in the lake because none of the counselors came to save him. So he was bullied, and that in turn fueled his rage. Freddy Krueger, same deal. He was bullied as a kid, turned around and just snapped. Like, decided to go after the kids of his, of the bullies from his childhood. And it's just very interesting to see what those triggers are, and to see that at some point some of these killers used to be victims. Not all of them. I'm sure there's like examples of so many where there's just like, no, it's just an evil force that's just trying to kill you. But some of these, they have some background where it's just like, you used to be a victim and you've turned around and now you've become stronger, so good job on you for doing that. But now you're not taking shit from anybody. Like, nobody's safe from you.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it's like you kind of went the opposite direction there.
Right, yeah,
like,
it's just very interesting to see some of that humanization come in, but it has to be done well. Like, this is what we've been talking about, right? Like, it has to be done well, because if you don't, you risk completely, like, your audience will be like, oh, they're just a poor, innocent, sad person. Like, I feel bad for them. I don't feel, I don't feel bad that they killed Joe Schmo over there. Like, Joe Schmo is probably a douchebag. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel bad for the killer. And when you do that, you've completely ruined your horror movie. I feel like that's my opinion personally, but like, it just, what can you do with that, and I'm trying to think of like a perfect example of that, and I don't know if I can. I'm sure there are so many out there, but
yeah, for me, it's hard to just like,
right?
And then like after the fact, I'll be like, oh yeah, I should have said him.
Right, exactly. At the end, you're just like, all your brain will be like, by the way, I was holding these for you.
It's like, gee, thanks, brain. Why didn't you like come after me like whenever I needed it? I am trying to think. Okay.
What was a very interesting horror movie that wasn't necessarily where there was like an evil person per se, was Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, there's another classic.
Right? I actually recently watched that. Because everybody's like, oh, you've got to watch it. It's like on like the top 10 horror movies of our time kind of deal. And I was like, I've never seen this. So I watched it, and it's very interesting because there's not like one specific person that you could just be like, you are like the bad guy, because it's a lot of things happening all at once. And that's a very interesting horror movie, because they also thought that what they were doing was the right thing. So I don't know, like, I think that's what makes people, or movies about people, I think that's the key element for that, is when they think what they're doing is right, that's when it's just like, ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, like that's what makes them like even more dangerous. Oh, and someone else in chat also brought up, and some killers are not human at all, like Pennywise, for example, in
Right,
It.
exactly. Ooh, Pennywise is a good example from It. Oh my god, what a creepy ass bad guy.
Yeah, Stephen King has his ways of just like, scaring the piss out of people.
Oh, actually I just thought of someone, Stephen King brought this up. Carrie's a perfect example of a villain that like you like she's the horror element that you're just like go girl go.
Oh man, yeah, the original is a classic.
Right? Yes. Isn't Johnny Depp in that one? Wait.
No, John Travolta. Johnny Depp,
yes.
You're thinking he was in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Thank you. Yes, I was like, no, he was in something else. Yeah. John Travolta, young John Travolta. Oh my god. Baby face John Travolta.
So it's like, oh, but yeah, Carrie is just like, I felt just really bad for her, and it's just like, it's like, well, like, I definitely understand like why you're pissed off and why you burned down the gym, but it's kind of like very extreme. Like, maybe you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I mean, Oh,
It's like you want to, on the one hand, you're just like, yes, you go, girl. Like you said, on the other hand, you're just
right,
like,
exactly.
but why? It's like,
But yeah, then there's like literally everybody has to die. Like, oh,
yeah, I think I
I
remember
don't know.
in the book, because I have read the book too, that only 12 survived from that senior class is only because they weren't in the gym at the time.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that, it's so crazy. And like that is a good example of the quote unquote bad guy being the like we're having this like hard time like empathizing with her because it, like you said, like it was brutal what she ended up doing. And in some ways you're just like, well, it's justified, I guess. But I mean, everybody died. Like that's pretty harsh. But going back to the whole victimization, and then forcing of the killer, that's really interesting. Just watching a killer just snap, really interesting, and I think Carrie does that really, really well.
Yeah, because it's almost just like that was the moment when she had the pig's blood dumped on her. It's like, that's it, I've had
Yeah,
it. That was
yeah,
like her trigger. Yeah, it's interesting to see that point. Just what causes him to snap.
yeah, exactly. And it, it's just you never know what a person is going through. Like, and I think that's what's really interesting about Carrie is that most of her classmates had no idea what was going on in her home life. And that's something like I also talk about on my stream sometimes is like you never know who's on the other side of that camera or game or whoever you're acting with or interacting with or talking to. You just never know what that person is going through. And so when you push their buttons or you make them mad or you say things like really mean things, like you just never know what kind of mental state that person is in. I'm not saying like everybody's gonna snap and turn into a like serial killer and kill people at the gymnasium, but you just never know. And I think Carrie really highlights that fact that like in our day and age this kind of stuff can happen. I mean, you might not get the psychic abilities, set an entire gymnasium on fire, but people are bullied and then they have reactions to that. And most of the time, it can, like, they get stronger from it, but it can also cause problems. And I think Carrie really illustrates that very well, where it's just like, you don't know what that person's going through. Why you shouldn't bully people just because, like, why? Like, why? You why? So that's something I really liked about Carrie personally.
Yeah.
Going back to the whole humanization factor of a horror movie.
And even then, you're like, well, I do feel sorry for you, but, and then there was like that big but maybe,
Exactly. Yeah.
like, maybe you should have given payback to the people who deserved it. Maybe not like all the other people that had nothing
Right.
to do with it.
The innocent people.
Right, because of course you had the jerks that bullied her, and then you had the others that maybe were just like they left her alone because maybe they thought she was weird, and just like no, not everybody had to die, Carrie. Just get your vengeance on the people that deserved it.
What I really liked about the original movie that wasn't necessarily done in the newer one, um, the older one, the acting was kind of like, oh, that's some acting. Um, but I really liked the fact that at that scene, where the blood comes down and everything, she's looking out into the audience, and for like a scene, it shows that everyone gets quiet. Everyone is quiet, like not sure what to do. But then her own paranoia and her mom's voice and her mom's paranoia comes into play in that moment, and she sees that everybody's laughing at her even though no one is laughing at her because no one else agrees that this is like a good thing. The only person that's laughing is one of the girls, I think, who
Yeah,
actually is part of the prank.
yeah,
But everyone else is quiet, and it's really interesting to see that like we were talking about, like she finally snaps. And even though it's she sees the reality as something different, and that's why I guess she just decides to like kill all these innocent people, is because she thinks, well, they're all laughing at me even though they weren't. And it didn't matter because she was in such a vulnerable, scared state that she just, she just let loose, so to speak.
Yeah, just like, fuck all y'all, just I'm done.
Yeah. So that was a very interesting scene. I was kind of disappointed that they didn't copy that over to the new movie.
I know. It's
Like
just
they made it, and then and then it was almost in a way trying to justify her actions in that moment. Because I guess like maybe the director was like, oh well, if everybody's laughing at her, then maybe the audience will be okay with her killing everybody. I guess I don't know, but I felt like it really took away from the snapping of her psyche that the first movie portrayed.
yeah, it's just like I had to wonder just like why they did that.
Right, and I know it's like a small change, like VT, why are you even getting upset about it? But it's a big deal. Like it changes so much of her story. Like it makes her more of a victim than just, you know, feeling like she's just a brainwashed person that's just finally like snapped. Like she was in the first movie. Her mom was brainwashing her basically,
Oh,
and I
that.
feel like in the remake they took that away a little bit, and
Yeah, it's like they kind of watered it down, maybe because they were afraid of what people like might say. It's
yeah.
just that, like, no, that's what I like about the first movie because that mother was batshit. Oh
Oh,
my
she was
god.
cray. Oh my gosh. Um, so funny. I don't know if you've ever seen or like read any of the behind the scenes for that movie, but the mom, she couldn't stop laughing. She couldn't believe that there would be a person out there that was like this. And so like between her lines, she would actually have to like stop because she was laughing. She was like, "This is so over the top." And I was just like, yeah, I could see that. But she just thought it was the funniest thing. She was like, there's no way there are people out here like this. And it's just like, yeah, you never know, and there's, if you can think it, it's out there, you know what I mean?
Oh god, I can't. That's like so far removed, really, probably from what you know. It's like, oh, haha, yeah, they're not really like religious nuts out there like that. It's like, yeah, there are. I've heard stories.
Right, yeah.
And that's just like kind of crazy too, just like that paranoia also was
Yeah. Oh
probably
yeah.
in a sense projected onto Carrie. Oh, kind of froze there for a second. Oh, okay. So
Yeah, I see that. I'm like,
but okay, so let's kind of start into the wind down portion here, and let me ask chat if anybody has any questions for our lovely guest here. And while we're waiting on these questions, why don't you sell yourself? So where are you located on social media, Twitch, when do you stream next, what's your schedule like? So just sell yourself, girl.
all right. So, again, I am VampireToy. You can find me on Twitch at VampireToy. I'm also VampireToy Gaming, I believe, on Instagram, which is where we got a little confused. It's okay. I have like my names are everywhere, and on Twitter, I'm Felix the Heart. That's just the Twitter account that I've. You can come find me on Twitch at VampireToy. I do stream Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays. Each day is a different theme. Friday is going to be, hopefully, if everything works out perfectly, I'm going to be playing The Forest. I haven't visited The Forest in so long because my PC couldn't handle it, but I bought new PC parts, so hopefully we get my computer going. I call him Frankie because I put him together myself.
Oh, that
Short
is so
for
cute.
Frankenstein.
That's so cute.
So yeah, I'm gonna hopefully play The Forest this Friday if everything works out perfectly. But I do DVD on Saturdays, and then Sundays are survival Sundays. So things like The Forest, those kinds of things. And then Mondays more of a relaxed day where I just hang out, play marbles. We did Mad Libs a couple weeks ago. It was a lot of fun. So that's what I do. I hope I can get to know you all a little.
Oh. I play Dead by Daylight a lot, and so since I heard that you play it on Saturdays, then, yeah, maybe a collab here in the future?
Heck yes, I love DVD. I love it. It's one of the best right now as far as like multiplayer horror games. It's one of the best out there. My favorites.
I do agree with you there. It's just like the developers are on top of their game.
Oh, I love it. And you can't beat playing as one of your favorites. Like, come on.
I know!
So good. So nice.
Even though I'm bad at killer, I mainly play as survivor.
Same. Okay, perfect. We're gonna have to get this DVD party started.
Yes, definitely. I will definitely be talking with you on Discord later about that.
Yay! Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got a couple questions here. So Silver Trigger says, speaking of vampires, favorite vampire flick and vampire game, if you have one.
Ooh, favorite vampire flick, like a movie? My favorite, like, ooh, oh, hold on. Like, I'm trying to think, like, if I could only watch one vampire movie for the rest of my life, what would it be?
You gave her a tough question,
Definitely
Silver.
tough questions. Uh-oh. Favorite vampire flick might have to... That's a tough one. I don't know.
You stumped her, Silver.
Yeah, what the heck? I'm just like, it's hard to pick one of my favorites because they're all my favorites.
So there you go, Silver. She's giving you the cop-out answer.
I'm giving you the cop-out answer. No. I think that's a really tough one just because I love so much of what other vampire movies have done. Like I said in the beginning, it's cherry picking what's your favorites. It might have to be tied between Interview with a Vampire and maybe Underworld, because I really liked the take on Underworld where it was like they're vampires but they have a twist, and I kind of liked their twist on that as well. So it's kind of a split between those two. I think I'm gonna stick with my answer. What was the second part of that question? I was just like stumped by the first one. I was like, oh.
A favorite vampire game, if you have one.
Ooh, a favorite vampire game would have to be... I really liked... I tried out Vampire the Masquerade, Bloodlines. That game is pretty good. I like that it's a little on the older side. It kind of... It almost gives me like Morrowind, Oblivion, like old school 90s game. Like I really like visiting it. It was almost nostalgic when I visited that, and such good vampires, classic game. A lot of people recommended it to me, so I'm really glad that I got a chance to try it out. But I really liked Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, and surprisingly I actually really liked Vampire with a Y, the one that came out like this last summer.
Oh, Vampire.
Yes, and I played a little bit of that, and I kind of liked it. I liked how it was a tough game. Like it wasn't gonna hold your hand. You could change things around a little bit and influence the events, and I kind of liked that. Very different. A lot of people didn't really like it too much, but I thought it was really well done as far as like a vampire game goes. So I thought that one was good.
Yeah, I haven't played that yet strictly because I heard it was really buggy on release, so I wanted to kind of wait on that one.
Right, yeah. It's definitely like, I haven't personally come into any contact with bugs on that game. It's not to say it won't happen, but I think there were just minor things that bothered me about that game, but that was just because of the vampire lore. And they still addressed the things that I was just like, this isn't in here, and then they would address it. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll be quiet now.
Hi. All right, then another question here is, the Anita Blake vampire series, yay or nay?
I'm sorry, what?
Anita Blake. So I guess she wrote a series of vampire books. Are you familiar with those?
I have not, and I'm gonna look it up right now. Anita Blake,
Uh-huh.
cause oh, sorry. Okay, so okay, I looked at this, but now I'm kind of like, this is some more stuff for me to delve into. There's so much with the vampire like culture. There's so much like to unpack. I have not looked into Anita Blake. It does look interesting. It's interesting mainly because this looks like it's from the point of view of a vampire hunter. So, like, instantly looking at it, I'm like, ooh, because of my previous experience with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that's what I'm gonna be basing a lot of like comparisons on. But I will still like, I'll enjoy it and I'll still read it independently of that bias, and then I'll compare and be like, But it looks interesting. It's a novel series, and it's like comic books too. That's actually really interesting. Thank you guys for sharing this. I will have to check it out.
Yeah, so she's got some new and interesting things to delve into.
As far as like comic books, though, I will say a really good manga series that I really, as far like with vampires and everything, was Helsing.
Oh.
I don't know if many people know about that, but it was really, really well done. It was one of my favorite mangas growing up to read. Graphic, but it was good. It was a very interesting art style as well. So I love vampire comic books. Definitely, if you guys have titles for stuff that I have not mentioned, please send them my way. I'm always looking for more vampire stuff to sink my fangs into.
So to speak.
Definitely.
Silver Ghost Blood Rain is good too, but kind of stiff control camera wise.
Yes, Blood Rain, really classic. How can we forget Blood Rain? Such a classic. One of the game vampires, if I'm not mistaken, unless there was somebody else. I'm trying to think. But Blood Rain is like, yeah, that classic, very classic.
I was a Buffy fan, and Angel. Oh, the spinoff.
Yes, Angel.
Yes. And the anime of Hellsing kicks ass too. That's what Glavia said. I'm trying to think. Okay, a vampire game that I would not recommend: Dracula: The Last Sanctuary. If you haven't played it, okay, now you may want to play it because I'm saying don't play it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, why is this so bad? But, oh my god. There are puzzles.
What are we talking here?
So, there are puzzles in that game, and while I'm kind of like, oh, puzzles, damn it, there, in some games, puzzles are just like, well, it's tough, but there's always a way that you could figure it out without, like, having to, like, with this game,
yeah,
it's, I don't know, it gives you no clues, the puzzles are there really for no reason, and it's just like, I had to use a walkthrough for the entire game, and I have never had to do that before, ever.
That's unfortunate.
So I was just like, oh my gosh, Dracula, The Last Sanctuary, you're going in to like finally kill him, this is gonna be awesome. And then I got into it, it's just like, I just want to get through this game. Like,
yeah, I just want to finish it at this point just so I could be done with it.
Yeah, it's just like one of those instances where you finish the game just purely out of spite. You've already gotten through it, like halfway through it, you're just like, I'm finishing it.
Yeah, at that point you're just like, I'm already almost done. I might as well just commit. It's like playing Jumanji. You just gotta finish it, man.
And that's, definitely a good comparison there. Just get it done out of the way. But yeah, I would recommend not playing that game because you're gonna need a walkthrough to get through the entire game, and it's just gonna frustrate you.
Yeah, there's some games out there. It's so unfortunate that they have built them in that way. It's like, I know you coded your game. You could probably play it in your sleep. But what about the rest of us?
It's just like, okay, yeah, I hate puzzles already, so just kind of throw me a bone here.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a hard balance to get as well as when you were playing a puzzle game. You don't want it to detract from the actual gameplay too much either.
Because then it reaches like frustration levels where you're just like, that's it, I've had it, screw this game. Like, yeah, but that's a game that I would recommend just like avoiding at all costs.
All right, perfect. It's not on my list.
So yeah, just strike it off your list if it was ever on there at one point.
Perfect.
So if you have to watch it, find someone who's like done it on YouTube and just like watch it through there.
Okay, yeah. No, that's a good idea. That's, you know, a lot of times that's the best thing you can do. Just because there's so many games out now, it's almost gonna be impossible to play all the games that ever come out now. Just the industry is just not, it's just not possible. So definitely I love jumping into YouTube videos and just watching the playthroughs of these games, especially if they're a little on the older side.
Oh, definitely, because just like, wow, I dodged a bullet there. But
yeah, exactly.
Let me pause here for a second because we've got a raid coming into the channel. What? This is the first raid I have ever had on a podcast day. So welcome, Nerd Camp. It's a Nerd Camp raid. Screams loudly, ah! I'm sorry the alerts didn't come on, but I have them turned off for podcast day. So, oh yes, Yam Fam Love, welcome. And everyone, this was my guest, VampireToy. We have just been nerding out about horror and vampires and all sorts of stuff for almost an hour and a half.
Whoa.
What?
Time flies when you're talking horror.
I know. Oh my lord. So
look at the love. Ooh.
Oh my gosh. So let me introduce myself to the nerd camp. Okay, I am Brandykins. You've caught me on a special day because this is podcast day, Terrorific Talk Day, where I've been talking with a lovely member of the Twitch community, VampireToy. We've been nerding out about horror, about vampires, about all sorts of horror stuff, and it's just time has just flown by. But this is one of my off days, but I am usually live Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday at 6 p.m. Central Time, where I play horror games. Who knew, right? I mean, who would have guessed?
Right.
Thank you so much for the love and the follows. Welcome. Welcome. Violet, how are you? How was your stream? I just had to, I didn't want to just be like, oh god, this raid. I'm going to totally ignore it.
Oh yeah, no, totally. Welcome, Raiders. We love to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Brandykins is the bomb.
Oh, and
the Zombomb.
The Zombomb. Oh, I'm gonna have to remember that one. She has just been on the ball with these quips and just these different ways of thinking about things, and it's just wow. It's just
thank you. That's so sweet of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I've been talking with her just a little bit on and off over the last month, and so it was just this is pretty much our first official face-to-face meeting, and it's
true.
It's been
this is the beginning of undead relationship.
Oh yes.
This is my life, by the way. I make these all the time.
That's awesome. Gotta go D-Wig, so I'll be right back. No problem. Enjoy the D-Wig. Oh, how awesome. So for any of the new raiders who have come in, does anybody have any questions for our guest about anything horror-related, vampire-related? So we won't end quite yet. So we'll kind of extend just a little bit more for our lovely raiders here. So, okay. One of the things that you did mention in our messages is that you talked about how your channel is going to be moving more towards a suicide awareness and blood donation direction in 2019. So kind of talk about that. What made you decide to go in that direction?
Oh, so, 2019, lots of changes coming to the channel, but those are the big ones. Blood donation for me has actually always kind of been a thing that I've enjoyed doing. I know it sounds kind of weird, but to be honest, I have O negative blood, so that is the universal donor. Everybody can accept O negative blood. However, O negative blood, we can only accept O negative blood. But because of that, my blood is considered one of the more sought after. So donating blood, I would do it every once in a while, but now going forward, I'm trying to see if I can maybe go in dressed up as a vampire. I'm gonna be talking to the some of the Red Cross people about it and just making sure, like, is this okay if I live stream me going in and just bringing this awareness and talking about it. So that's in the works right now.
Oh,
The
wow.
suicide awareness is something else that I've just it's actually the main reason why I started Twitch streaming. This is something I actually have not talked to my channel about yet, so this is a very interesting time to be bringing this up. But uh, suicide awareness was the main reason why I decided to officially start Twitch. One of my friends actually introduced me to Twitch streaming. She no longer streams on Twitch, but she was very like, "Hey, you should make an account, in case you ever want to get into it. It could be something you could do." Because at the time I was thinking more like I want to do YouTube. I used to watch a lot of Markiplier. I used to be kind of depressed in college, so I'd watch like Game Grumps, Markiplier, not so much PewDiePie, but I'd watch like Jacksepticeye, just all these
Ah,
people that
yeah.
were like funny and uplifting, like very positive, and it used to help me a lot with my depression when I was in college. So to me, I was just like, I'm giving back because I kind of wanted to have that same energy and give back in that sort of way where, like, in case somebody else is also going through a hard time, maybe I can help cheer them up and make them laugh, and like through horror, just the the idea of like picking yourself up and trying it over and over again until you get it. I feel like that's a lot of what horror is. Like, you're going into it blind, you don't know what you're doing, you're just scraping your knees, but it's okay. Get up and try again. So I really liked that. But she introduced me to Twitch, and it was something completely different. You get this one-on-one interaction with people, and it's instant. And I thought that's really, really cool. Like, this is a really interesting platform that you can just talk to people and they can talk to you, and it's more like you're more involved, you know what I mean? And
Exactly.
I like that a lot. And so I was playing with the idea of, well, maybe I should be a Twitch streamer, maybe I should just do more stream, like maybe Twitch is what I should be doing. But I was kind of like beating around the bush, not really committing to it, you know what I mean? And it wasn't until, like, this is almost weird to say, but almost a year ago, at the end of like the last year, like I was just waffling, whiffling around with the idea, and then a very infamous video got posted, and I
Hmm.
it struck me really deep, and that, like, it was very close to home because I've lost a friend to suicide. And it was a video about like someone being very insensitive to suicide. I don't want to say any names. I'm sure people already like, I know what you're talking about. I'm like,
I know exactly what you're talking
yeah,
about.
it hit me.
It pissed me
It hit
off.
me in the mouth. Like, just seeing that video and just the controversy. That's really what just shook me, was the controversy, the aftermath. Like, how was it being handled? And it I was just, at that point I was like, I know what I need to do. So I sold everything. Pretty much, like, I gathered all my stuff, uh and like I got rid of like my art tablet. I got rid of a lot of stuff, like,
Oh, wow.
and I saved up money to make Frankie, who is my computer. For those of you coming in late, like, Frankie is my computer. I put him together myself. I have no idea about technology or anything, but I I was on a mission basically. So I sold all my stuff, bought Frankie's parts, put Frankie together by myself. Everybody was like, "Are you sure you know what you're doing? Is this what you?" I I did it. I taught myself to put together a computer. I
Oh,
put
how
together my
awesome.
entire channel single-handedly, and I started streaming. I was just like, I set a date and I started streaming, and I was just like, this is what I need to do.
That
And I just, oh, I'm getting all fired up now just talking about it. I'm
Oh,
like, oh,
you know what?
oh,
I love to see that because it just shows that you have passion for what you do, and for
yeah,
you to take a negative moment like that, like you said, that video was pretty much just like your kickstarting point. You took
yeah,
what a potentially negative situation and turned it around into just like something positive to where you could raise that awareness, and that's just it's just I just got kind of like ooh, just like seeing that
thank you.
passion just about it and how I could tell just like this is an issue that's really important to you. So,
Yes, and I feel that because that's where my channel started from, like the fires that birthed it, basically, that's the torch that I kind of want to carry going forward into 2019. This whole year was basically me kind of figuring out how does Twitch work, what is the community like, how do I even live stream? Like I had no idea. I was just like, I have no idea. And luckily, with time, I got some really supportive people, some amazing mods, and people coming in. And like, some people kind of know that this is the story behind the channel, but I haven't really come out to talk about it yet. Like, this is actually the first time I've really verbalized it. So, thank you so much for being a safe place for me to talk about this. It
oh,
really means a lot. But yeah, like, it's just, it's something that really is close to my heart. It so it was natural that this is where I'm going to be going, and it's really interesting to me because I have seen people come in to my channel, and they're, sometimes they have a bad day, but then by the end of the stream they're like, wow, I'm really glad I came by, like you really cheered me up. And like I do try to reach out to people because I'm not really here on Twitch to make money. I'm here to um, just kind of be human to people. And I feel like we as a society have moved away from that. And I know it seems almost unrealistic, but I do try to reach out to people, like if they're sick or they're going through a hard time. I try to really reach out to them and let them know, like, you're not alone. Like, we have people here that care about you. We miss you. Um, just trying to make sure like people feel like they aren't suffering alone, if that makes sense.
absolutely. And it's just like my community can attest to this too as well. I'm a worry wart. So if I haven't seen someone around like in a couple of days, I'm just like,
Yeah,
my mind immediately goes to, oh my god, like where are you? Are you okay? Like what's happening? Like
exactly.
what's
Yes.
going on? Like I worry like too much. But that's also the awesome thing about Twitch is that you could build just your own little corner of it. You could have your kind of
Yeah,
weird, happy little family.
it's true. And that's what it is. It is basically like you're finding your family here. Someone, you're gonna find your family here somewhere on Twitch. Like you will find somebody.
Okay, and that's just I get like so excited just thinking about Twitch. But I wanted to like point a couple things out here that now not only are you a part of our little family, the Brandy Bunch, Silver just gifted you a sub to this channel.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. Thank you so much, Silver Trigger. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So you're also now a part of what I like to call the bunker. So whoever's in this like a sub is a part of the bunker.
Heck
Yes.
yes, I'm safe.
Yes. And looks like Silver also gifted a sub to that nerd Violet. You're awesome. Thank you so much for that as well. And Neuropilot mentioned something here. One streamer I watch, Mod, keeps the crisis hotline number on the overlay and channel info.
Hey, something that I am going to be working on these next couple weeks, because 2019 I'm just going to be doing that kind of thing where I actually want it for both the United States, because there's like two separate numbers. There's one for the United States, and then I think there's a completely like Europe one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try and do both, because I do know that I not only do I get US people, I get people in Europe as well. And like, so I want to make sure like both are being advertised and provided for people, definitely providing those resources for people. And the stream is more someplace where I want it to be like a fun, like, leave your worries at the door, leave your troubles at the door. And then the Discord is really where I want the meat of resources to be, not excluding the stream, because like I said, I would love to have that. The number is a great idea. Um, but I definitely want the Discord to be the place where, like, if people need somebody to talk to or resource, they can go there and reach out to somebody. And everyone in my community is super kind. They will, their kindness surprises me, but in a good way, not like in a bad way or anything. Like, it surprises me how empathetic and helpful these people are. And that's really what I'm wanting. Like, I want to bring out the good in people. Ironically, even though I'm dressed as a vampire and I play horror games, like I still think we as people should treat each other as best as we can, because again, going back to that whole, you don't know who's behind that screen. You don't know what someone's going through in their private life. And even if they treat you like poop, like
Poopy.
it sucks, but at the same time, you don't really know if like that's their way of coping with what's going on in the background for their life. And even though you're like, well, fuck you, just screw you, whatever, at the same time, like, you could just, I don't know, I feel like you could be perpetuating a problem, and that's definitely like, it's a hard line to cross.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, man, this issue is like, for some people it's just really hard to talk about. But and one person in my chat, part of my community, says, I honestly haven't seen a streamer be so aware of depression and so caring for everyone's lives. You've earned yourself a follow. And that comes from Lance Fancy Pants.
Thank you.
So you're just like getting like all the love from the bunch tonight. It's all
Thank
the
you.
love.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
And it looks like, okay, Neuropilot has given you a link in chat of the list of suicide crisis lines and another link to the suicide prevention lifeline. So Neuropilot has provided some links for you, for some resources for you to look at later.
Thank you so much.
And it's just, wow. It's also, yeah, it's refreshing to me to see someone just like tackle the hard topics, because especially with things like depression and mental illnesses, sometimes people are just like, well, what is this? How do I approach this really without sounding
it is a very sensitive conversation. It's a very sensitive topic. The best way I found to approach these conversations is you have to have this like this energy of like, you care about the person regardless of what they have done. And that can be kind of difficult to do for some people, but I try to make it so that people understand, like, people are gonna mess up constantly. We're human. There are some things where I'm just like, okay, come on. But I feel like with depression and suicide, they are very like sensitive topics, but at the same time, I think if you're coming from a place of genuine compassion and you show people like, there are better ways to handle this, you can do this, you're a very strong individual, capable of, like, that's what I always say, like, you're capable of more than you even realize. And that I always try to end my stream with that, because it's very true. And I feel like when we get depressed, sometimes it is like biological, and maybe it's genetic or chemical, something going on. But I feel like a lot of the times when we get down on ourselves, it's because we're in a situation that we can't really control, or like we feel like we're just not powerful in that moment. And I don't know, I've always tried to be this person where I try to look at the positives of things. Like, people come to me with bad news, I turn it around, I'm like, well, at least you dodged a bullet there, or like, I try to do that. And I don't know, that's just my personality. And so I feel like with these topics, when people know who I am and I'm approaching them as a friend, they know I'm not trying to blow smoke up their butt, like, I'm actually genuinely like, hey, I'm concerned about you, I haven't heard from you, like, you kind of scaring me, like, like, what's going on, I'm worried. And it's good to tackle these topics and to break the silence as it's said, because who else is going to do it? Sometimes we suffer in silence. We don't even reach out to people.
Mm-hmm.
And like sometimes the most depressed people are the people who don't reach out. But I still try to like check, like you do, like you've got
Yeah.
your brandy bunch, right?
Yeah.
Checking in on them, just like, oh, what's happening. And
Just like
these topics need to happen. Like these conversations need to happen. And sometimes you just gotta, I think a lot of times people are more afraid of how other people are going to react when you reach out
mm,
to do that. You know what I mean?
true. I had that kind of stigma there. It's like, well, do they even want me to talk to them?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's just like, you know what? I worry about you. I don't care. I haven't seen you like one of my mods, Silver. I hadn't seen him in 2 days. And I was just like,
Exactly.
oh my god, where are you? What happened? And he's just like, comes back like, it's okay. My internet has just been out for the last 2 days. I'm fine. Like, oh, because we always like tend to go to the worst case scenario in our minds. Like, oh my god, what happened?
Exactly.
But
And then I think if it's just coming from a place of love and not necessarily like worried, like
yeah.
I think people can genuinely tell like that you care. That's you can't fake caring.
Right. And yeah, people could definitely tell just even like, if you're like just streaming, whether you're not being like the true version of yourself.
It's true.
People know.
Absolutely
They can pick
true.
up on it. Like, wow, we've covered a lot of topics today, just like from
We did.
It's awesome. And just also something else that I wanted to mention, just like whenever you talk about, like, say someone's having issues or having a bad day, it's just like, so how do you approach it when they feel like they're at their breaking point? Do you recommend, is that why also you want to include the resource links? Like, do you recommend, like, okay, I feel like you need to talk to somebody, like, else other than me?
Sometimes I will have those like red alerts, right? Where, I have messaged people because I'm concerned, and really very lucky and blessed that they that they did respond back. I've never had any like serious like issues, so that's a good thing. But because I'm not really a trained professional,
Right.
I can't really like I tell them straight up, I'm not a trained professional, can't do anything like that for you. However, if you need someone to talk to, I am here. If you don't feel comfortable talking to me, here are these resources. So, depending on where they're from, I will, link whatever they have available to them. I like to do a like phone call, like a phone number calling center, and then also like a text messaging or like a messaging app of some sort that they can use in case they don't want to call somebody, because I know that can be a little bit of a weird thing for them.
Yeah.
And then I also encourage, like, is there somebody you can talk to who genuinely will care and listen to you? Because if there's nobody, like, some people come from really bad backgrounds and stuff. If there's nobody, is there any way that you can find somebody, like a friend or maybe a professional, like a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a counselor, somebody who can listen to you and talk with you? Because I feel like I can send you a message back and forth, but that's not helping matters, because right now you're feeling disconnected. And I feel like you can have more of an impact in helping people if you are physically there. That's not to say that, like, if you send a message, it's not going to like do any wonders or whatever. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying sometimes when people are down, it's better that they connect on a person-to-person basis. So that's something that I recommend for them. Like, go find somebody, go talk to somebody, because obviously you're in so much pain right now that you're talking to me and I'm a complete stranger. Like, you need to talk to somebody, and sometimes they're not really interested in talking to other people, and that's fine. So I will talk to them, and I'll let them know, like, well, you always do have me, we can always chat, like, I know we don't even know each other in real life, but we're friends. Like, don't worry about that. Like, I will listen, I'm not biased. It's gonna be okay. So I do try to do that kind of thing. Again, like, it really depends on the person, and it will depend on the situation, but the resources are really helpful for people. And then I think also, as far as the stream, in case people don't feel like reaching out, having those resources already there at, people like wherever people need it would be a good idea. So that in case they don't want to bring upon them like this awareness, like, oh, so and so is, a little depressed, in case they don't feel comfortable sharing that, that's totally fine. So that's kind of what the direction I want to take the channel going forward is, in case people need to have that anonymous resource help, they can have that. Otherwise, I will still reach out to people and check in on them and make sure they're doing okay.
Yeah, it's just like, you ain't gonna stop me from caring.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I feel like if you're not here for, I don't know what the time frame is, like a day, I'm just like, well, like maybe they have other things going on. Because my threshold's 2 days. If I haven't heard or see someone in 2 days, then I start to get concerned. Just like, that's when I was like, oh my god, where are you?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and then I've had it on the flip side where like people kind of get a little weirded out that I reach out to them. They're like, why do you care? Like, I've had people straight up ask me, why do you care? And it's just like, because I care. Like, because you're a human and you are dealing with something obviously major. Like, everybody has their problem. Everyone's dealing with stuff, and it's nice to know that someone's in your corner, but they don't get that. They're like suspicious of you almost instantly.
Like, what is this person doing even talking to me? Yeah, so unfortunately some people are like that, and they take a little bit longer to just like finally get through.
Yeah.
Get through too, but yeah, I was just... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say it's understandable too, because you just never know what, like, some people are out for for stuff sometimes. So I feel like a lot of that hesitation comes from the internet sphere, because you're just like, well, why are you contacting me? What do you want from me? Because you can't possibly, you don't even know me. Like, how could you possibly care what my life is about? Like, why would you care? And that's kind of what I'm trying to break in our culture, is like, you should care because we're human. Like, you're obviously upset and suffering, and like, it's okay. Like, we all go through it, and I care because I want to know what's going on, and I want to help as much as I can and let you know, like, you're not alone in all this. And it depends on the person, really.
Yeah, some people will just be like really open and just willing, and others will just be like, no, sorry. They'll just keep that closed wall around themselves and not like really want to interact or communicate at all. And just like with those people, it's just like, patience is required, and is an obscene amount of patience.
It's true. And that's just how people come, like, everyone's different spectrum of different stuff, different interests, and just who they are. Everybody comes in different just thoughts and processes and everything. So it's just a matter of just letting people know, like, if you need somebody to talk to, I am here. If you need someplace to laugh, come laugh at my derpiness.
Yep, that's pretty much just what it's like over here too. It's just like, laugh at me. I don't care. It's okay. If you want to vent about your day, just get it off your chest. I'm here, and it's just pretty much, we're all one weird kind of happy little family here, and I could kind of tell with you talking about your community, it's the same way over there too.
Yes, so, it seems like our communities have so much in common. I love it.
Yes, I know. But
the zombies and the vampires coming together. Ooh,
what a guess. Yeah, we will definitely. It's official now. We'll definitely have to get like a collab, like going like some Saturday where we derp together in Dead by Daylight.
I would love that. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm really excited about that now. I'm like, yay! More people to play DVD? Heck yes.
Yeah, it may even like happen sooner than you think. I'll kind of talk with you about that just like after.
Absolutely. Would love to hear your ideas.
Oh, okay. So last thoughts. Okay, Silver said, when I was going through depression back in my early teenhood, I found it hard to open up to people. It took 7 years to get through the worst parts, but with the help of friends, I managed to get through the worst of it. So that's good that you had those people that were able to help you out there.
That's amazing. I love stories like that. You know, it's it can definitely be very scary to go through depression, especially when you feel like you're all by yourself. You don't really know how to handle it, or maybe you don't even know what's going on. You're just thinking like this is life, I guess. And it's good when you have that support group to help you get through that. Because it's a lot of people don't, and if it's very fortunate that you did, Silver. I'm really happy for you. That's amazing. It was definitely not an easy journey, based on what you wrote, but I'm really happy for you. I'm glad to hear that you're doing at least a little better. I think I would think, but yeah, if you don't have that support group, it can be really difficult. So that is what I'm trying to kind of create, is a space where people can feel like they have the resources, they have the support, they can feel safe somewhere. And that's what my coven is. It's a safe place full of like really kind people, and that's what that's all I've ever wanted.
It's all I ever wanted in my life, and I finally have it.
Yes, it's so true, so true.
And Neuropilot says, I joke that it's flipped around like Avatar. Twitch and Discord feels more real than out in real life land.
Right, doesn't it? Ooh,
sorry. Yeah, because of just like the whole idea about how when we're online, like it's not true of all people, but most people, we feel free to just kind of open up more, be ourselves just a little bit more, because
true.
Yeah, you got those people that that you don't feel judged, you feel just like comfortable just to be yourself, and that's just what Twitch was for me, or is for me still. Like, was like. People may be thinking, wait, what? You're not going to stream anymore? Like, no, it's not what I meant. Not what I meant.
Episode 10, Brandykins reveals a secret.
Yes, I will no longer be streaming. Dun,
dun, dun.
Is she kidding around? To find out next week.
That's perfect.
Oh, the Rescue Ranger. I was supposed to start Wellbutrin tomorrow because of my depression. I went to the pharmacy to get my prescription, and my doctor's assistant never sent the thing to him. Now I don't know when I'll get to start. Oh God, that's gotta be
tough.
Yeah, that's gotta be so frustrating. But until then, yeah, definitely. I hope that you have those people that you can talk to, and just like whenever you like get down into like that place to where you could just be like, I need to open up. I just need someone to listen.
Absolutely. And really important is take care of yourself.
Yes.
Make sure you're eating well, make sure you're drinking water, sleep. That is either you're the depressed person who doesn't sleep, or you're the depressed person who sleeps too much. So depending on which one you are, just be careful. That's just take care of yourself as best as you can, my friend, because that's a really difficult situation you've found yourself, but I know you can do it. Just take it easy. When you start recognizing those signs, just take a deep breath, go do something that you enjoy. Maybe it's art, listening to music, dancing, go outside, get some fresh air and some sunlight. Unless you're a vampire, then stay away from that. But definitely just don't overdo it, because right now you're in a very like sensitive time. I don't know if sensitive is the right word, but just take it easy. Just don't. It's gonna be okay. Sorry to hear that your meds are not ready, though. That's especially when you go to the friggin' pharmacy. You're just like, okay, I'm ready to pick up my prescription. Like, you went all the way to the pharmacy. That's a chore.
Yeah, it's just like, no, psych, we don't have it. It's just like, really.
So frustrating.
Yeah, I could definitely tell it's just like frustrating. Cause yeah, and if it doesn't get to where like you don't have it within a reasonable time frame, then I'd be calling and it's like, hey, what the hell is up? What is going on?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So don't feel like just like, oh, like I don't have my Wellbutrin, so now I'm never gonna get it. No, just like make sure to call them out on it. It is appropriate.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely, and you got to take care of yourself.
yeah.
No one's, you have some people care about you and they'll take care of you, which is really amazing if you do, but sometimes you're the only person that's going to look out for your best interests, and sometimes that's how it is in the medical industry as well. So don't just like roll over and just be like, okay, I'll just wait for them to do whatever, maybe next week. I'm not saying that that's probably what you'll do. You didn't take it that way, but I'm just saying like sometimes the medical field doesn't take these kinds of things seriously, and so they might just kind of like, oh, we'll get to it, but it's definitely a priority. Don't let them convince you otherwise.
He said, I called them and no one answered, so I left a slightly agitated message, went home, and modded my old Game Boy. Good for you.
Heck yes. See, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Good for you. So you're definitely looking out for you, so that's good.
Perfect. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you've got that. Thank you, and amazing. I'm fingers crossed for you, my friend, because medical industry can be difficult to maneuver.
Yes. Man, 2 hours. We've been going at it for 2 hours.
I know.
Because it's like, and it's just like, it hasn't even been like, I'm not like, 2 hours. God, I wanted to like end like an hour ago. But no, I'm just like amazed. Just like 2 hours? Like, because I've had such a great time just talking back and forth with you. This is pretty much this is our first official meeting, and it's just pretty much, I feel like that we've known each other for a lot longer.
It helps that we have very similar interests.
Yeah, that helps too.
A lot. I really enjoyed this. Like I said in the beginning, I don't have very many people to nerd out with horror stuff with, so this is like, I'm like, yes. Yay.
Yes. Yeah, Silver, this has been the longest podcast so far that I've had. Like,
thanks for pointing it out.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, thanks. But I think the longest one before this was like an hour and a half. So I'm
setting the bar. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, it's like you're setting the bar for everything here.
Episode 10, 2-hour podcast episode.
First vampire enthusiast.
Yeah, this is great.
And also first person that I've had on here that's talked about issues such as suicide awareness and blood donation. So you're setting a lot of milestones for me, girl.
I'm happy to do so. Absolutely.
Okay. And before we now officially end, tell people when you're going to be streaming next and what time you'll be streaming, and remind them of where they can find you on Twitch, because it has been a while since we've done that.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much, Brandykins. I really appreciate being here. I will be streaming next Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We are hopefully getting the forest up and running. It hasn't but I bought some new PC parts, so fingers crossing that it works this time. You can find me at Twitch, just going to VampireToy, and you can pretty much connect with me there. Discord's the best place to go. Twitter is also a really good option as well. I post all the updates to either one of those. So definitely come on by. Like I said, my community is really friendly. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to get to know you a little more. Come on by the Discord, come on by the stream, love to hang out. So thank you so much, Brandykins. I appreciate you appreciate you hosting me here. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And I appreciate you coming on and talking with me about our shared interests and about the things that you are passionate about outside of those interests. It's just, you've earned a follow from me too, if I haven't already
I appreciate
yet.
That.
So I'm gonna return the favor there, because it's gonna be like, wow, we get along. Yeah, I'm not gonna follow her on Twitch. What are you talking about? No, but yeah, I'm definitely gonna follow you after, and I will hit you up for Dead by Daylight stuff.
Yes, mayhem that we'll have to. This is gonna be good.
Yeah, because I can definitely tell, just a co-stream or collab with the two of us will be an interesting thing. I can already tell.
I love it. I'm so excited. I'm already yes.
All right, so VampireToy, once again, thank you for coming on. It has been an absolute pleasure.
No, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as well. Thank you guys so much for having me.
And any last words?
remember that you are capable of more than you ever realized. Just know that someone out there cares about you.
Aw.
Have an amazing night, everybody.
Aw. Yeah. Take care, my dear.
Thank you. You too. Goodbye.
Bye.